Not long ago, I was blessed to speak with Terry Smith, a wheelchair pickleball player across the pond in England. Pickleball is way more than a game. Today, on the court with me is Chip Parmelly of the United States Wheelchair Pickleball Association. It's the Pickle with Mickle interview series 00. Start. Chip, good morning. What a pleasure to have you on the court with me, as I like to say. I mean, if I can drag my butt out to Florida sometime, we'll have to get on the court for real. Chip, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I mean, we're 85, 90 degrees and sunny. I mean, what more could be paradise? So there we go. Except I'm not out playing. So
hey, good segue there. I was going to say, did you get any pickle in yet this morning? It's almost, close to 10 o'clock out there, already hitting 90 degrees. Here out in the desert, we'll get there, probably 101 or so today, but not at 90 yet. It's still that good time of the morning where if I could be out pickling, I certainly would. But Chip, I'm super excited to have you here today, founder of, and I love acronyms on this show, USWPA, for the lay people, United States Wheelchair Pickleball Association. Chip, your personal journey to where you are today is absolutely incredible. The visual, you're going to be just fine.
Okay, very good. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. The technology clears all that up. I know it always amazes me too, and it's a perfect question for you to ask. But as I was saying, you've got an incredible story. You suffered your injury way back in 1982. You were in an accident. And it wasn't but 10 years later, you're winning Olympic gold medals, playing wheelchair tennis. Can you give us a cliff notes of, from then up to now, your success there in wheelchair tennis, because you weren't done in those first Olympics. And then in 2022, you found pickleball, you got pickleball fever, which led us to talking actually kind of, the show kind of worked out and connected us together, which I think is awesome as well. But I'm going to give it to you, handing you the baton, so to speak. Go ahead and bring us up to speed to how we're sitting here right now, because you do have a great journey.
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, when I was a kid, I swam competitively from the time I was 5 years old till 12, 13 years old, and many, many laps in the pool. I envisioned the Olympics. I mean, if you had to put in 4 hours a day swimming at 5, 6, 7 years old, you'd think there'd have to be an ultimate goal. At 12 years old, my parents opened scuba diving businesses, and my brother and I gratefully and gleefully got to quit swimming. So we were pretty happy that we didn't have to do 20 hours a week of swimming anymore, because it really wasn't the goal anymore. But so I was real athletic all through high school, and I don't know if it was a premonition, but I told people for many years from the time I was 18 on that I was going to have a serious accident by the time I was 30. And people are saying, why would you say that? I'm like, it's just a feeling. I don't know, but it's just a feeling. They're like, well, you're wishing it upon yourself. No, I'm not wishing it. It's just a feeling.
Was it because you were?
I broke my back.
Did you have maybe these feelings, the spidey sense, sort of, because you were an active scuba diver yourself, and maybe that's kind of perilous, or you just kind of maybe had a feeling, hey, I'm kind of a dangerous guy, and then unfortunately you had the accident, and that was in 1982.
The funny thing is that my dad would never allow me to have a motorcycle growing up. He said they're too dangerous, so he wouldn't let me have one. Well, when I got out of the house at 25 years old, I went out and bought a three-wheeler. And on a Thursday and on Saturday morning, about an hour and a half into my day, I flew over the top of a sand dune and dropped about 25 feet into a hole, and there went my back.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
My dad was very, very thoughtful on that. And as far as answering your question about did I have a feeling, when people say, well, why would you say that you're going to have an accident? I'm like, well, I know I water ski, I snow ski, I scuba dive. I do lots of things that are pretty dangerous, and I just have a feeling that something's going to happen to me. And it wasn't a dream. It wasn't a premonition. It wasn't it just was something that I thought was going to happen. And, you better watch what you ask for, because when I broke my back, I was, shortly before I broke my back, I said, Lord, I get razzed for three things in my life. I had a swayback, a real bad swayback, so my butt kind of stuck out, and my legs were really thick because I was very sporty, and I would rip out the inseams in jeans. So I would rip out the inseams. I had a swayback, and I wasn't 6 foot tall, and I was like, Lord, if I could just be 6 foot tall, not have a swayback, and not rip out my jeans, wouldn't I
Must
be
be great.
happy? Well, shortly thereafter, I broke my back, and they put me back together with metal rods. So they took my swayback and they straightened me out, and they made my legs much skinnier because all the muscle disappeared. And so I went from 5'10" and a half to 6 foot. I lost my swayback and my butt that stuck out, and
Now
I
you got
got
no
skinny
butt.
legs. So there you go. You just got to really watch what you ask for
Now you
because
look
it
like
may
me.
come through. Well,
Skinny,
yeah, I don't
skinny with no
know. There
butt.
you go. I'm not skinny, so there you go. I put on a few pounds after that. So yeah,
Fair.
so I don't. So there's that. So I mean, I broke my back in '82. I got involved in wheelchair sports. Played about everything you could play. I played racquetball. I was a racquetball player before I got hurt. Racquetball, tennis. I did road racing. I got to do the Boston Marathon, the Sydney Australia Marathon, the Honolulu Marathon, Long
Wow.
Beach, Palm Springs, San Diego. I mean, I had a lot of fun doing that for about 6 months, but I realized that, I really would rather play tennis, basketball, racquetball. So, I played a lot of I played on the racquetball tour for many years with the able-bodied pros. I got to know many of the pro players. I traveled the worlds with them, so it was fantastic. And later I found out that the owners of the US Open pickleball tournament were a couple of gals that I played racquetball with back in the 80s and 90s. So it was great to
Small
reconnect
world.
with Chris and Terry from the US Open. Yeah, so that was a great time. I got to, rekindle and get to know them better in the last couple of months than I did many years ago. So, I mean, what happened? In '82, I broke my back. I played tennis, racquetball. I played in an exhibition in the Paralympics in Barcelona in '92 for racquetball. They were trying to get racquetball in as a full medal sport. So we did an exhibition in Barcelona, had a great time, got a gold medal there. But I mean, there weren't enough players to really tout that as something that was, great. I mean, it was a good time. I realized that racquetball was not going to be on the agenda in '96, so I went to 100% tennis in '95 and kind of put racquetball on the back burner and was able to qualify for the Paralympic team for tennis for '96. Went to
That's a
Atlanta,
that's a
had a great time, did
pretty
well in
quick ramp
doubles.
up there in just 1 year and qualifying there for that Paralympic team. That's the Atlanta Olympics in '96, correct?
Yes, sir. I mean, I in '92, '93, '94, I was probably ranked well enough. A buddy of mine sent out a ranking yesterday on the a phone, and it showed that in 1993 I was ranked sixth in the world in wheelchair singles in 1993. So I was highly ranked for quite a few years there, but when I when I thought I was playing racquetball in '95, my ranking went way out of sight. And I got to play in 7, 8, 9 tournaments and compete well and got back into the rankings where I needed to be. But they disappeared for a while. I was a little nervous for that. But after the Paralympics, I met my wife in 1996. Played she played wheelchair tennis. I met her,
Okay.
Amanda, and we proceeded to you know, fall in love and do all that crazy stuff and get
And
married,
now
have a bunch of kids, and
she's
basically,
prominent in with the USWPA, correct? She plays a big part in with marketing and helping out there. We'll get to that, but just since you mentioned your lovely wife and she's feeling well, okay, right?
yeah,
I knew
she
there.
is. She's struggling with some things, but I think that she always gets through them. She's a younger lady. I got lucky and married a younger woman, so she doesn't have the old age issues that I have. So, she'll get through it, and she's a trooper. So we're good. And yeah, she's probably could be the face of the USWPA because she's far better looking than anybody that we have in the association. So that makes it good.
You got to keep her out
So,
in the front,
but yeah,
right? You got
so
to keep her out in the forefront.
yeah, she's on our website. She's the second picture in. So beautiful blonde is, so there you go. But so, yeah, so really I kind of quit sports. I mean, I don't think I played a tennis tournament after maybe 2003 or something. And, I just had a bunch of kids and taught them sports. I had a son who played baseball, daughter who played tennis, daughter who played volleyball, a son who acts. So we just kind of took advantage of everything we could do there. And I just kind of put all my sports on a back burner for probably 20 years. I mean, I
You,
probably 20 years without any activity.
you kind of
And,
have to do that, right? I mean, you mentioned your
then
children,
I,
and that you've got the 4 kids. You've got your own pickle team right there with you and your wife rotating in as you want to.
they're most of them are pretty good. My daughter who plays volleyball, she is a prolific little pickleball player. She said that if I don't do well in the pro tour, Dad, I'm going to convert and go pro tour with pickleball. So
She'll start
as
pickling
athletic
up.
as she is, I'm sure if she decides she wants to do that, she will be there. So that's, yeah, she's 23 and got one more year at University of Texas on their beach volleyball team, and we will see how that goes.
Hook 'em.
Yeah, hook 'em horns. So there you go.
And so,
So
well, yeah,
so yeah, that's kind of, I mean,
geographically part of why you're in Florida. You were in Texas, and it was one of your children that going to school in Florida, right? That got you to move to Florida. Isn't that part of it that got you out there?
that's pretty much most of it. I had my oldest son is a baseball player. He's locked into Texas because he still coaches. He plays softball, and he's not leaving Texas. But my second daughter graduated Texas Tech, and she had been in Texas quite a while, and she thought it would be great to rekindle a relationship with her younger sister because they hadn't seen each other really in 4 years. I mean, they were both off at school. One was in Florida, one was in Texas. So they got together, and my younger daughter had a room open in her condo in Fort Myers. So the older daughter said, "Can we move in?" Her and her boyfriend. My younger daughter said, "Absolutely. You've got upstairs. Come." So my daughter and her boyfriend, and my younger daughter, and my son, my youngest son, who's a phenomenal theater major, journalism. He's starring in Into the Woods right now, and he's doing falsettos. I mean, he's done 40 plays and
Oh,
musicals. He's
wow.
spectacular. He wanted to come to Florida, and he got accepted to Florida Gulf Coast. My younger daughter was there. My oldest daughter wanted to move, so they harped on us, said, "Mom, Dad, you have to move." And I'm like, "Guys, I'm a realtor. I've got lots of business in Texas. It's not so easy to uproot a real estate business to another part of the country." So they begged and pleaded, and I said, "Well, okay, we can try this." So we sold, gave away, did whatever to leave Texas and came to Florida. So it was a great idea. It's a great place. Unfortunately, we showed up a few months before Ian showed up. And when Ian showed up, it Ian put 4 foot of water in my daughter's condo.
Wow.
So my older daughter had no place to live. So her and her boyfriend moved in with her mom and I, and we have not been in the same house for 4 years living together. And although it was not an issue, it was uncomfortable for her to have her boyfriend living in a house with the parents and the brother and the animals. So they had an opportunity to go back to Texas. So she scampered back to Texas. And then my younger daughter, who was the volleyball player, her
Right.
coach said, "You've probably run out of options at Florida Gulf Coast, Maddie. We don't have a big blocker. You need to enter the transfer portal and see if you can find a college that needs your talent." So she entered the portal and had numerous colleges looking at her, Washington and Grand Canyon and FIU and
And
FAU, and she had lots of them, but the most prominent one was Texas. And she had always been a big proponent of Texas because she played indoor volleyball, and that's really where she wanted to go to school. But at 5'8", she was never going to be a 6 rotation outside hitter at Division One. So she converted to beach about 15, 16 years old. Well, I mentioned to her a couple of years ago, I said, "It's going to be funny when Texas gets a beach volleyball program and they recruit you, Maddie." And she said, "Dad, that's never going to happen." I said, "Nah, mark
never.
my words,
Won't
it'll
happen.
happen." It did.
And now she's back in
So
Texas.
Texas recruited. So she's in Austin. My oldest daughter's in Waco. My oldest son's in Dallas. And my youngest son, my wife and I are here.
There
So
you go.
loving the weather, not spending as much time with kids as what we thought we were going to spend, but that's okay. It's
They
beautiful here.
They got you, Chip. They got you to come, and then they said, "Great, we'll go." Hey, but it all works out okay if everybody's able to stay happy, and you're in Florida, and now we'll fast forward things. I appreciate you just kind of shedding some light on the journey that you've taken when you found this pickleball stuff. Let's talk about that, how this pickleball came into your life, and you recognize kind of just a lacking of wheelchair pickleball, and started this United States Wheelchair Pickleball Association. There's a little more to it, but I want you to tell it because it's your story. But we'll kind of jump ahead a little bit to around 21, 22, was it, when we started to find the pickle fever and we found some pickleball?
Yeah, when I talked to my wife, I still felt that I was pretty healthy. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm what the doctors called a walking paraplegic. I mean, I broke my back. I
And
wasn't
talk
supposed to
about that,
walk. I
please.
learned
Yeah.
to walk all over again. Yeah, I had a doctor who I think I've learned that hospitals are a great place to get fixed. They're not a good place to heal. So I was in a hospital and I had a phenomenal doctor, but his bedside manner wasn't the best in the world. And when I asked him a couple days after my injury how I was doing, he lifted up my left leg in his hand and held it up off the bed and said, "Do me a favor, hold that up." And he let go, and boom, my leg went right back into the bed because I was paralyzed. And that was his response to tell me how I was doing. Well, at 25 years old and a hard headed young man, I'm like, okay, doc, you say what you say, I'll say what I say, and we'll figure it out. So I worked triply hard. And in therapy, I always did 2 to 3 times as much as I was supposed to. I was always ahead of the curve, always asking the therapist, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What do I need to do to walk? And they were very helpful. It was at Loma Linda Hospital out in California. A year after I broke my back, I was able to start to walk. So I have walked for many years. I've never been a good walker
Okay.
because I don't have ankle flexors. I don't have calf muscles. I don't have very little in the way of quads. I mean, if I get this much off balance on my left leg, I'm going down because my
Okay.
left leg can't hold my weight up. So
Okay.
boom, off I go in a heap. And
That's
that's a funny thing
the
because
affectionate skinny legs you mentioned.
yeah, there you go. And the unusual thing about that is that in wheelchair sports, in most wheelchair sports, if you have a disability that keeps you from playing actively as a stand-up player,
Okay.
you can play wheelchair sports.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you broke your leg and you couldn't compete, or you had a birth defect, or many, many items, but I've had standing people that saw me walk and give me the business for playing in a wheelchair.
Yeah. I
Even
mean,
on the pickleball court, I had someone in the grocery store after I played pickleball. I was in the grocery store. I saw a couple of people that I played with, and one of them said, "Man, you walk. What do you use that wheelchair for? Just so you can have two bounces?" And I'm like, I wished it were that easy. I really wished it were that easy because I can't move left or right or forward or back. I can't jump. I can't hop. I can't skip. I can't do any of the things that one would want to do to be able to play sports, and
okay.
actually just to get around quicker. So, I mean, I am fortunate in the fact that I can get out of the chair and heal. I had rotator cuff surgery, not
Okay.
during my wheelchair sports days, but after I quit, I tore a rotator working in my daughter's bedroom, and I had to have rotator cuff surgery. And it was funny, I never did that in wheelchair sports. I had to be scraping my daughter's floor, and I went down and ripped it. So, I mean, it took a while to heal from that. So things aren't quite normal with my right shoulder, but they're good enough that I don't really notice the issues. And I mean, I got a left shoulder labrum torn and an elbow and a wrist that are bad. But for pickleball, a couple years ago, to get back to what you said, I thought, the kids are all out of the house. I would love to do something sporty. Tennis is not going to be in the picture because I do not want to do that again. It's too much work. I'm not really set up for it. So let's try pickleball. And I lived in Rockwall, Texas, and I started looking
Okay.
around to see if anybody had pickleball courts. Well, lo and behold, Oasis Tennis Center, which was right around the corner from me, which I was a charter member because when they were building it, my daughter was playing tennis. We joined. They had converted many of their tennis courts to pickleball. I had
Yes.
no idea. I hadn't been there in ages. So I went up and they had like 22 pickleball courts.
Yeah, that's where they
And
have
I
big
rolled up and I
PPA
was like,
tournaments
oh
there
my
at
God.
the Rockwell Center, right? At the Oasis Tennis Center,
Oh,
Pickleball Center.
yeah. And now, And now they're all pickleball. I mean, they have indoor, they have covered, they have show courts. They have 40 something courts. I think I haven't been back in 2 years. I would love to go back. So the funny thing is, I rolled up and never had a clue what I was doing. And there was very friendly people said, "Well, you want to play?" And I went, "Yeah, sure, let's try it."
Let's
So I
go.
jumped out, had a good time. I think, within the first couple of weeks, I hit an ATP, which blew some people away, blew me away because I didn't really
In
know
the yeah,
what I did,
around
but
the
I
around the
did it,
post
so
in
that
the
was pretty
chair.
cool. In the chair, yeah, yeah,
That's
I like
awesome.
that shot. It's a
Yeah.
fun one to hit, but you got to have some room on the sides. In the chair with
Yes.
that extra bounce, it gives us an extra 3 or 4 feet to get wide to hit that
Well,
ATP.
you
So,
need a good
I
court
think I
too, right? I mean, you can't bang into a
yeah.
fence because you do need extra space in the chair. And so let's that light bulb right here. Talk about that for a minute for when you're looking for places to play pickleball wheelchair in your wheelchair pickleballer, and that you're going to need a little extra space just around the court. The court's the same size, of course. And when you go to maybe some indoor facilities, does that limit maybe your potential on the court, or do you find that most of them allow enough space, even moving around with the chair side to side, to get some of those shots, even with the two bounces?
That's a great question, and there is no specific guidelines as to what the apron can be. I mean, I've been to places where you've got 4 foot, 4 feet between the post and the fence. I can barely get my chair through on the side, so that wouldn't be a whole lot of room on the side. And then I've been at places where even at Oasis when I started there, when I sat at the baseline
Mm-hmm.
on certain courts, when I was sitting in my chair at the baseline, I could reach out and touch the fence behind me.
Okay.
So there was no room behind the baseline.
Yep.
But that's where I learned to play. I didn't really realize that you could have more rooms. I mean, optimally, I don't know what optimally would be. I would love to think that you could have 8 feet from the post to the fence on the sidelines. I would love to think that we had 8 foot. And I would love to think that we had behind the baseline that we had 10 feet. I mean, but I understand that
Yeah.
the more space you take for apron, the more pickleball courts you take away from the money making
From
end
the
of the game.
total space
So I
of the
get it.
place, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If you enlarge each court by 3 feet on the sides, well then, the court's 20 foot wide. If you do that 3 times, then all of a sudden you've taken out a pickleball court.
Yes.
So when people are in business to make money and for people to have enjoyment, there becomes a fine line of what is acceptable and what is not. So us in chairs, I mean, as long as we can get through the gate and get on the court, we're going to play. I mean, whether I'm sitting at the fence behind me at the baseline or whether, I mean, at Pickleplex where I play, they have now have 24 courts and courts 17 and 18.
Is this right
They
there
made them
in
wider and deeper.
Fort Myers, Cape Coral? Where is
In Punta Gorda. Yeah, yeah. It's in Punta Gorda, which is,
Okay.
25 minutes from me. We had a tournament there a couple months ago, and
Nice.
we have 2 courts that are bigger, and they are ideal for wheelchair folk because we have room to roam. And that's really great question on your part as to how much room do we need. I'm not really sure how much we need. I know we probably would like more, but that's not always part of the deal.
Let me tell you, we all want more
So
because that's something that I talk about a
yeah,
lot,
yeah.
Chip, is, when you see a lot of these places that are popping up, pickle places, as I like to say, and there are a bunch of them, they're coming up all over, I'm sure in Florida, around here for sure, is, how much extra space can you get? And I get it. You want to maximize people on the court. You want to maximize the opportunity for revenue. I understand it. I appreciate it. If you want people to keep coming back and playing and you want sustainability, you might sacrifice a court or two to have a little more space for people, even from a rec perspective. And I think, okay, wheelchair pickle players and then also higher level players want a little extra room too. Just my own humble opinion, as I see the game continue to reach more people, which is what we're doing here with Chip Parmelly, USWPA. Chip, thanks for joining me. But I think it's important, but I do appreciate how you said it. We're not going to get the dreamscape, right? We can't go in, there's 3 courts and they're super huge and it's perfect for everybody. But I think we'll start to see something more in the middle, because as you continue to do what you're doing, we're going to see more folks, more wheelchair athletes getting after the pickle game, I truly believe. So back to where we were, you and me get off on tangents. We did this when we were talking earlier. Back to the wheelchair pickleball, and you mentioned you just had a tournament. What was the name of the place in Punta Gorda? Pickleplex,
And Punta Gorda.
and Punta Gorda,
It's called Pickleplex. And
Pickleplex.
yeah, and I'm a member there, and they've taken me. I never really play any wheelchair folk there because there's nobody there. I just play standing players, and the tournament director came to me months ago and said, Chip, we have our in-house tournament in March. She said, if I put a wheelchair division in there, could you get me any players? And I was like, March, U.S. Open, April. A lot of money to come to Florida for days. I don't know. And I told her, I said, Gloria, I don't know. I said, I'll do my best, but I just don't know. Well, by then I had established the USWPA, and we had some members. We got invited to, we held our first tournament back, and I'm getting off on a tangent, but I'm trying to tell you how this happened.
You're good.
We had our first tournament, standalone tournament back in November, and that was at Grapevine Chicken and Pickle. We had 19 wheelchair players. We had another, when we did hybrid, I think we had 16 wheelchairs, 16 standing players. So we had 16 teams of hybrid. We did that. We played wheelchair singles. We played wheelchair doubles. Everybody had a great time. It was a wonderful opportunity. 19 players. Then in January, I had a buddy of mine who's in a chair reach out and say, hey, Macon Mid-South Regional is being played indoors at the new Rally and Rhythm and Rally indoor pickleball facility in Macon, Georgia.
I like the name of that.
32 courts, phenomenal place. It
32
was a mall
courts,
that went out of business.
Pump the brakes. 32
Indoors.
courts, Rhythm and Rally, Macon, Georgia, people. Macon, Georgia. Look it up on the map. Now, I happen to know where Macon, Georgia is. My family is from Milledgeville, Georgia, not too far from Macon. But this is a small little town in Georgia, and we're rocking 32 courts. That's awesome. Go ahead.
A phenomenal facility. They've got 16 courts upstairs, 16 courts downstairs. It was like a Broadway or J.C. Penney's.
Okay.
And they all went out of business. Burlington came in and took one hub, and then Rhythm and Rally took another, and they turned it into a phenomenal facility.
Wow.
With exterior surface, with offices. I mean, it was spectacular. We had 8 quality players. I mean, we didn't have a ton, but we had 4 or 5 great players there. Jim Black, my doubles partner, showed up. Anthony, Ryan, and Ryan Anthony. Funny thing is, you flip-flop the name, and that's the guys. One's Ryan Anthony, one's Anthony Ryan. They played together. Phenomenal tennis players converting to pickleball. We had 2 or 3 other great players. So we had a quality play. So after Macon, when we was at Macon, I said, hey, guys, you have an opportunity to come to Florida in March for a great tournament. Would any of you guys come? Well, got on USWPA and started reaching out, and we actually had 8 better players that showed up at Punta Gorda in March. We had phenomenal hosts. 3 of my out-of-state players. We had a Canadian, the number 1 player in the world is really out of Canada, and he played. And then we had a player from St. Louis, a player from Massachusetts, players from Minnesota. So we had 8 quality players. We had singles, doubles, hybrid, and the tournament director said it was the best tournament that they had ever run. She said that the spectators were in awe of what went on with the wheelchairs and the hybrid. The hybrid players couldn't wait to do it again, and she had awesome. A waiting list of people that wanted to play in the next one. She said, Chip, I ask one thing of you, that you commit to coming back next year with double the players. She said, I want you to bring 16 players next year or more, because we loved it. We had 3 families host 3 of my USWPA members that came in from out of town. One got picked up at the airport. He had free accommodations. He got the master bedroom. He got fed every day. He got taken back into the airport. The other 2 got accommodations, got free food. I mean, it was a phenomenal opportunity. And then they were back 3 weeks later for the U.S. Open. And the U.S. Open went from 13 players. And we got off on a tangent as to how I started the USWPA. But I'll mention that I played wheelchair tennis for many years. Yeah. And when I got out of wheelchair tennis, there were tournaments that I would go to that, like US Open, there'd be 300 players, all in chairs, 400 wheelchair tennis players. And I went to the US Open last year, my first US Open, and I had been training real hard. I was expecting 20, 30, 40 wheelchair players. I showed up, there was 3 players in my singles division.
Yeah.
3 players. The good thing about it was the best player in the world was in my division.
Was there.
But there was only 3 of us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really, I didn't get to play a whole lot of guys, but I did get to play the best guy.
That's
so
right.
I went away from there going, wow, what an amazing sport. What an amazing opportunity to have the greatest wheelchair sport known to man hit the courts and we not have enough players.
Right.
So I made it my mission after last year at the US Open to grow wheelchair pickleball any way that I knew how. So I got together with a couple of buddies. We founded the USWPA, United States Wheelchair Pickleball Association. The US Open was in April, and actually I filed for my Florida 501c3 in August, April, May, June, July, August. In 4 months, we had
quick
501c3 status in Florida. We had filed for IRS 501c3, and in November, we received our 501c3 right before our first official tournament, wheelchair pickleball, wheelchair players only, but with hybrid in November. Really fast-tracked within 6 months, we were up and running, and we went from 0 members in November to now we're at 45 members. So awesome. When we have a tournament, we post it on our website. We've just posted Chicken and Pickle. I met with Taylor Nichols and Lindsay Vermillion from Chicken and Pickle, and they are trying to do a wheelchair pickleball tour, kind of what I was hoping to do. And they want to partner with us so that the 3 entities can form and do a better job of growing the sport. They have a tournament on June 23rd at Chicken and Pickle in San Antonio for wheelchair players. I don't know how many guys I can get there because it's 3 weeks away and we didn't have a whole lot of notice. So it's a one-day event. It's pretty pricey to go in for one day. One of the things that I'm trying to do with our wheelchair pickleball tournaments is try to keep the cost down.
Okay.
Because, unfortunately, wheelchair pickleball tournaments are costly.
Sure.
Between travel and hotel and food and entry fees.
Well, yeah. I mean,
people don't really realize that to play wheelchair pickleball, you can't play in an everyday chair. You could. You wouldn't be very good.
Talk about that because
an everyday chair.
The difference between the everyday chair and I guess more of a sport chair. And, props back to Chicken and Pickle. I know you're working with some great sponsors like them. You mentioned looking to do more of an organized tour, and we'll get back to that in a minute. But I also had that on my list is the chair, and they're not cheap. And the Chicken and Pickle, I believe, is going to have chairs on site. You mentioned that to me. Is that right? That they've already done that, and there's are there other places that you working with that are also going to have some better chairs on site for players, so they might not have to make a full-time change if they're not, let's say, looking to be on the wheelchair pickle tour as it might be soon?
Great question, Mickle. And people don't really realize that an everyday wheelchair for a lightweight wheelchair is a couple $1,000s for an everyday chair. Your sports chairs start about $3,000, and they can go to 4 or 5. RGK, who's a sponsor, going to be a sponsor of ours, they build a carbon fiber chair that is $9,000.
Wow.
$9,000. So to answer that question, you're right. Someone comes and wants to try pickleball. It's not like you want to go out. The first day you went out, you said, hey, I want to try pickleball. Let me borrow a paddle, borrow some balls, make sure that I have court shoes on. I got some safety glass. I'm going to go try pickleball. See? Yeah. And you walk away and go, oh, my God, that was a lot of fun. I'm going to invest in a $50 paddle and buy me $6 worth of balls, and I'm going to have fun.
Right.
That's not the deal in a wheelchair. A wheelchair, you go out there and you're in your everyday chair, and you can't move in an everyday chair. So you really need a sports chair that has some camber, sets you in a different position. Chicken and Pickle, they have dedicated each one of their facilities to have 2 sports chairs on site that anybody in a chair that wants to come and try those get to do it for free. They don't rent them. They lend them to you. And they also have classes once a week, free of charge, 2 courts, 2 hours for para pickleball is what they call it. So their para pickleball program is 2 hours of free instruction if you're in a wheelchair, and you get to use a chair. So if you don't have a sports chair, you get to borrow a sports chair. And if you get to do it enough and you say, oh my God, this is what I need to do, then you need to figure out how to buy one. And there are
Right.
grants out there to help you with that.
Okay.
So Chicken and Pickle is the only facility that I know of, and there's probably others. They're the only ones I know that are doing that. And by the end of the year, I think they're going to have 16 facilities stretching from St. Louis, Kansas City, Oklahoma,
Right here.
Texas. They've got 3 or 4 or 5 in Texas or something. So they're growing, and I know there's many other indoor facilities opening, but Chicken and Pickle was the front runner in trying to get behind the wheelchair pickleball. And Jamie Elliott is one of their liaisons, and she's in a chair, and she's been a big proponent to try to grow the sport through through the help of Chicken and Pickle.
Well, it's
That's
fantastic. I
really,
mean,
you know, what we're.
we've got Chicken and Pickle out
Yeah,
here, out in Glendale. I think I mentioned to you I was out there for the National Pickleball League Championship, and then I was also aware, Chip, of they did a wheelchair event out at the Chicken and Pickle here locally. So hey, no problem giving a shout out to Chicken and Pickle. If you have one near you, go check it out, folks. You can play some pickleball. If you're a wheelchair athlete, you can get in there and play some pickleball, and the food's not bad either. So we can always give some props to Chicken and Pickle.
yeah, and other food's great. We enjoyed that during our tournament. We ate there a few times, and actually some of the guys had a drink. So
Hey, you
nothing
could
wrong with
do
a
that
bar
too.
either.
They're set up for the pickle gate after you
Yeah,
play pickle. So it's always awesome. And
yeah,
back to USWPA, part of what I think is pretty cool too is you mentioned that you're setting it up to as sort of a directory via the website. So if I'm kind of in a specific area and maybe I want to reach out and be able to find other members, they're available. And maybe we can go play some pickle. And I think that's a cool aspect to what you're doing as well, trying to connect more people who are playing the sport in wheelchairs. Can you talk about that a little bit?
you know, it's great you mentioned that, Mickle, because when I left the U.S. Open, I was like, man, I have no idea who's playing, how to get in touch with them, how do we organize this stuff. So through various sources, para pickleball program in Dallas, I mean, I started reaching out to people and say, hey, we need members. So our membership of all of $40 covers a directory. We get you as a member, and you give us your email address, your phone number, and if we're lucky, we get a mugshot of you that we get to post on the on our website, so people know what you look like and where you're going. And the great thing is that contacts. I had a gal from Ukraine reach out to me. She's now in New Zealand. She wants to start a para pickleball program in Ukraine when
Wow.
she gets back, when war torn country mellows out and she can get back. She escaped to Poland the day that it took off, and she ended up in Australia, New Zealand. She's in New Zealand trying to grow and learn about para pickleball down there. So I'm hoping that New Zealand and Australia can be part of our World Cup that I'm trying to organize for next year. So that was part of what we wanted to do. With the membership, we wanted to get a directory so that if I want to go to Texas and play, and
Yeah.
I don't want to just play standing players, because some people in chairs are intimidated by standing players. I mean,
And this is
and
the
some
hybrid
standing players
game
are
just for
intimidated.
people to catch up. Wheelchair player, standing
Yeah.
player,
So,
hybrid
yep.
game. You can do
Yep.
it and you can have a lot of fun.
And that's the deal. So, our directory, I have people, someone calls from Michigan, says, do you have any members in Michigan? I said, well, if I don't, I will have. So all you got to do is join, and you'll be in a directory. We have a member Zoom call once a month where we discuss what we want to do. On our call last month, actually a week ago, we had Terry Smith. Mickle got introduced. He actually introduced Terry to us, and we hadn't even met. And Terry reached out to me, and now we're communicating with trying to grow the sport not only here but in England and Ireland and Scotland as well. And I had my Canadian buddy on the call, so we're an open book. We're not trying to hide anything from anybody. We just want to grow the sport in whatever way possible. And I think our first tournament, just to tell you how our membership worked, we felt that pickleball tournaments are too expensive. So Chicken and Pickle amazingly donated all the courts to me for our
Awesome.
tournament. And we were there Saturday and Sunday. We took a lot of courts. We took more courts than when I thought we were going to because it was the first tournament I'd run. I had a sponsor that gave us shirts. This shirt. I met him on the pickleball court. He said, I own a sporting goods store, the biggest sporting goods store in Illinois. He said, do you need some help with your tournament? I said, oh, God, absolutely. I need money, but I need product. He said, well, I can do shirts for you. I said, cool. I said, can you do 100? He said, absolutely. Just send me the size, send me your logo, and who you want on the back of it. So we had sponsors on the back.
Nice.
So I sent it to him. He sent me 100 shirts. We met sponsors with Volair. Volair donated paddles.
Very
So
cool.
I reached out to the owner of Volair and said, hey, I got a pickleball tournament. I would love to get the winners a paddle. And the owner said, to heck with the winners. I want everybody in the tournament to have a free paddle. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. He said, how many do you need? I said, oh, man, dude, you're phenomenal. So our entry fee was $75. 40 of that went to membership. So basically for $35, you got a $150 free paddle,
Yeah.
a tournament shirt, a $15 voucher for lunch, and 30 pickleball games indoor at a phenomenal facility. And you got to communicate and have fun with 16 other wheelchair pickleball players. And that was our first tournament. I mean, we didn't charge extra for events. We didn't charge extra. For $35, you got all the play you could ever want. So that's kind of what we've tried to build our growth on, is just doing it as inexpensively and as helpful to people as possible. So that's kind of where that's at.
I think you're off to a phenomenal start, working with great sponsors. We mentioned the Chicken and Pickle. Volair was there for you, donating some paddles, making it a great experience for people. And it's also about spreading the word. You mentioned Terry Smith. He was gracious coming on my show. That's how I found out about you, growing the game over there. You mentioned the lady you met who's down there in New Zealand. And pickleball is big in Australia and New Zealand. MLP Australia just concluded its season. And so we know the game is growing. So it's great to see, you ready for this? Wheelchair pickleball rolling right along. You like how I did that? I know you did. And you've also got designs on continuing international expansion, looking to have more of a tour. Like you said, as early as 2025. You also are a certified teacher. So if people are down there in the Florida area and need some lessons, you can help them get maybe their game up to speed a little bit, right? And so before I jump into the fun zone, because right behind you, I wanted to get there. We talked about Volair, but there's something velvety smooth all around you, Chip. You dipped your own hands. You stepped right into the pickle pool yourself. You started your own pickle company. It's Velvet Pickleball. Talk to me about it. Right now, still just the 2 paddles. I want you to tell me. And what's coming next with Velvet Pickleball?
That's funny that, I have a very good friend of mine in Texas who's very creative. He's a marketing genius. He's a great salesman. And I was with a company, and I didn't bring them into the sponsorship deal in Texas, but they donated paddles as well. So people had a choice of a Velvet Athletics T700 raw carbon paddle or a Volair paddle. So we gave them either or, and I let them play with them. I said, guys, go out and try these out, see which one you like better, and you get to take it.
So you let them go and demo the paddle and then take one home? Nice.
Yeah, that was how it was,
Awesome.
I thought, how much more fun could that be? So I was in negotiation with a sponsor. I won't mention the name, but he kept promising me things that just didn't get done. Well, my buddy in Texas said, yeah, to heck with it, Chip. Let's just start our own pickleball company. And I'm like, dude, you don't know how much work that is. And he's like, no, man, I can do this. I got help. I'm like, well, you're a lot younger than me, and you're probably a lot more ambitious. I'm not really into starting a pickleball paddle company. There's so many of them out there that I can go to and get sponsorship. I don't really need that. But if you want me, I will be part of what you want. He said, dude, I want your name on the paddle.
Yeah, bring it out. Bring it out. Bring it out.
He said,
and don't knock over your display.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. We have, I keep showing you here's so what happened was we did this paddle, and it was my signature paddle.
Okay.
Had my name on it and
hammered.
And it was textured, a T700 raw carbon paddle that is a phenomenal feel. I guess it's the hybrid. He did this one, but they also did one. The original one was black on one side
Cool.
and blue on the other.
Okay.
Well, what happened was the texture wasn't the same on the black as it was on the blue. So I told him, I said, hey, in my opinion, that's a defect. He said, I don't want to put my name on what I consider to be not the same. So we're selling this T700 raw carbon paddle for $60.
All right.
I don't know where you can buy a raw carbon paddle for $60.
I don't know if you
this
can.
This one's 60. The one that is, you can't. This one is approved by USA Pickleball, and it's $95. It's a 16 millimeter.
Right.
We have a 13 millimeter coming out in this one very shortly.
Okay.
All our paddles are named after a type of silk. Hammered is a type of silk.
Okay.
Our next paddle that should be out in the next couple weeks is crushed for
Nice.
crushed velvet. So that's coming out in a 13 and a 16 with more grit on the face, solid Gen 2 handle. And it's going to be a great paddle. I'm looking forward to testing that here pretty quick. We've got a new gal that used to be, has something to do with Serena and Venus Williams' success. She's promoting pickleball.
All right.
She's going to be the name on our silk paddle.
Very cool.
So we're going to have a silk that should be out in the next couple of months. So before the year's out, I think we'll have 3 paddles in 2 variations. We'll have 13 and 16 millimeter on all of them. They'll range from $60 to $250. And I'm excited to think that we're growing and that's going to be something that people will love to get behind. I mean, the paddle, when you order the $95 one, it comes with a cool box,
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, I played with it for 8 months. I absolutely love it. I've hit with other paddles that are far more expensive. And if I have a choice, that's the one I would be playing with.
Can people go to velvetpickleball.com? Where can they find it online if they want to look for it?
It's Velvet Athletics. So it's velvetathletics.com. Athletics. So, so it's
velvetathletics.com. People, you can go there.
Athletics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
velvetathletics.com. And you can order the $60 paddle or the $95 paddle.
Very cool.
The silk the crushed is coming. The silk is not far behind it. So if you're looking for something a little different, crush is going to have a lot more grit. So if you're into more spin, that was one of the complaints I had. People say, well, there's not enough grit. It affects my spin game. So the next paddle is going to have more grit. So your spin game should be better.
I tell you, want to stay in the paddle game.
Thank you so much for bringing that in.
If you want to stay in the paddle game, you got to listen to the people. And listen to the people as you keep bringing out your new paddle, because just like you mentioned, there's a lot of people in the game. I don't know how many are going to stay around in the game, but it sounds like you got some good people working with you. I think the paddle looks sharp. Now, Chip, it's got a little bit of a Volair color scheme to it, but that's all right. I mean, maybe you did that on purpose.
I don't know. I know that.
Or is that a Dallas Maverick color scheme?
No, that's our. Well,
are you cheering?
Kind of close to Dallas.
It's a little Maverick.
I'm a Maverick fan. I was a little bummed that they didn't pull off a sweep last night, but I never anticipated that. I was just hoping for a win.
I had the sweep I had the sweep on my Monday show. I was talking about sweeps and that it was going to give me more time to break down Minnesota or Dallas and Boston. But hey, I think they're still going to get it done. Now, congratulations with the Velvet Athletics, the paddles. We got the hammered coming out, or the hammered is out. We got the crushed coming out. We're going to have some more varieties. I think it's cool. You're going with 16, 13, not a 14 in the middle, down 13 and just a 16. So pretty neat stuff. And it does. It looks sharp. Now, Chip, take a deep breath. Are you ready to have a little fun here before I let you go and get some pickleball in today, or get back to whatever you need to do?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So you're going to be on the court. Of course, you're playing with one of your Velvet Athletic paddles. Who would be your dream 3 people, right? This is your dream pickle group, and it could be anyone. This could be entertainers, pro players, whoever you want. You get 3 people on the court with you. Who are they?
Man, that's a great question. I should have known something like this was coming when I watched your show with Terry, because you threw some stuff at him like that. So, I guess anybody in their right mind would want to get beat up by Anna Lee or get lucky and have her on your team. That would probably be fun. I got to see McEnroe play tennis years ago, and with his attitude, I guess it would be pretty fun to be on the court with him, and maybe Jack Sock. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know. I'm not into idolizing. I just do my thing. So I mean, there's so many great players that any of them would elevate my game, and I just have a blast
I
being on the
think
court with any of them. But
I think I mean, that's a good three out there. You get Annalie Whiplash Waters, the Mac Attack, and Jack Sock, and you out there playing a little pickle. I'd watch that. That'd be great. Who's your favorite pro pickler right now?
no, that's a good question. I guess I hate to admit this. I'm so crazed with what I do. I don't follow pickleball as much as I should. You might have to cut that, but
That's all
I mean,
right.
I'm massively into what I do. I mean, I
You're
think that
you're
the
normal.
Johns boys are.
A lot of folks I talk to don't have a
I
time to watch because they're playing and doing what they do. But you already mentioned Anna Lee. You mentioned the Johns brothers and Jack Sock. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah, and I like. I mean, it's amazing to watch uh, John's play. I mean, his game is just so spectacular. And I played with a guy. My daughter's boyfriend is very athletic, and he had a friend that was a low level pro, and he came out and played with us. I play with my daughter's boyfriend and them, and we go after it. I just have a blast with them because they don't take it easy on me. They try to crush me,
No
and
mercy.
to get any points. Well, yeah, so they brought out Dom, and Dom and I played, and Dom was a little on the heavy set side. If you looked at him, you wouldn't think that he could cover the court. Will and his brother Van were so their ego was in, and they were going to beat Dom, and they wouldn't hit to me. They kept hitting to Dom, thinking that they could break him down, and we were beating him 11-1,
Ooh,
11-2, and I finally said, "Hey guys." I said, if you want to stand a chance of winning, you better hit to the short guy because you're not going to get anything by this guy.
but
Within two strides, he was covering side to side. And I'm like, how the heck do they do that? I mean, it just was so fluid and effortless. And I'm like, oh my God, that's spectacular. So I did get to get on the court with a low level pro. And he said he got to play Ben Johns one day. And he said he got beat 11-0, 11-1. And I thought, my goodness, that just shows the level
that's
because
right.
this guy was 100 times what we were.
That's
And
right.
Ben Johns was 10 times what he was.
There's a big difference, right? There's a big gap up there, but we'll keep it going. Last movie that you watched with your lovely wife.
Oh, yeah, you're going to hate me. I can't even remember.
Oh,
We don't
she's
do
gonna hate you.
movies.
Yeah.
So, no, I try. I go to movies, but she doesn't like going.
All right.
It's with her being in the chair, it's not as easy for her to go to a movie.
Okay.
So, I mean, and
Well, what was
so
let's
it's
switch
probably
that up then to put you back in your wife's good graces. How about what was the last date night you guys do? What's a date night?
we actually did that with my daughter and my son were
Fun.
my daughter's back from Texas and back in Florida. We went with her and her boyfriend and my son and my wife and I went out for Mother's Day to a
Nice.
restaurant and had some great food here in Cape Coral. Just what was Mother's Day a couple weeks ago. So
Yeah.
that was the last date night we had. That was on a Sunday. We had a great time. Had a margarita and some wonderful food, and that was I remembered that, so I guess I'm okay.
I think you're
My
doing
wife
better.
had French onion
You're climbing
soup.
back up.
Not good.
What would be your dream destination to go?
That's crazy because I with wheelchair tennis I traveled all over the world. I mean, I was in Europe, I was in Australia, I was in Japan. I've been to Mexico, been to South America.
Could be a place you go
My
back to.
dream location. Good question. I mean, I enjoyed Australia. My brother
Okay.
lived there. I spent some time in Australia. That wouldn't. My wife's never been. I think that would be a great place to go to, or even what's going on in Roland Garros. I mean, I'm still a tennis fan. That would be a pretty cool place to get to go to.
Now, we did not plan this, folks, but great segue. I mean, Nadal's final French Open. Let's not get off on a Nadal tangent. You go back and listen to my Nadal remembrance episode. Who do you got in the French? Who's going to take it?
There's some great players. I think I think it's going to be between Zverev and Djokovic.
Okay. Think Joker
But
can get through to
I
the
mean,
final?
If Djokovic is on his, yeah, well, and Sinner. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I would change that and say Sinner and Djokovic.
Okay.
One of the two of them. And the way Sinner's playing, it may be Sinner.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll keep our eyes on it. I love tennis too. And of course, I always love the tennis majors and I love the golf majors. Anything that's big in sports, it's fun. It's good to watch. Now, here's a good one for you. Your favorite band. What kind of music you like? Who's your favorite band?
Oh, I'm a classic rock guy. You
Hit
know, I
me.
mean, uh,
We're going
let me
CCR,
see.
Foghat, CSNY. What do you got?
You know, I love Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, CSNN. Probably, you know, I was a Beach Boys guys growing up. You know, my wife's country. I don't, you know, and I don't know. I think I would have to go. I loved Crosby, Stills, Nash, Young, so that would probably be one of my better ones.
You mentioned the Beach Boys. Chip, funny story. One of the first, it might have been the first concert I went to was a Beach Boys concert, Three Dog Night opening act. How cool is that?
Amazing. They were here in Texas not long ago, and I was hoping to go see them.
And
And
did you
Dave
miss it?
Matthews was here a week ago.
Oh,
No, I didn't go. You know, my wife works till 6 in the evening, so to try to get to a concert is not so easy to do. But yeah, Dave Matthews is another one that I was a fan of. He was here, I think, 2 weeks ago. Didn't get there, but you know, I'll get one of them.
hey, good pull right
Sure.
there. Dave Matthews Band. I'm a big fan myself. And so, final thing here. We were talking some food. You went out for the Mother's Day. Nice time. What is your favorite food and do you cook?
Favorite food and do I cook? I love to cook. I just, you know, and I love seafood. Probably one of my favorite foods that I have not had in many, many, many years. Growing up, we owned two scuba diving shops. So I was a scuba diving instructor. I learned to dive at 11. I was an assistant instructor at 15, instructor at 18. And in California, abalone was something that not everybody knew what it was, and it wasn't easy to come by. But we used to be abalone divers. So when we would go on a trip to Catalina, my brother and I would always limit out on abalone, and it was amazing uh, to have fresh abalone. So that was something that I have not had in 30 years, 40 years that I would love to have again. But yeah, I'm a pretty good cook and I love seafood. I cook steaks, spaghetti, tacos, you name it, I'll cook it. But I love seafood and I've just come across pompano recently and
Ooh.
absolutely love pompano.
All right. I did some snorkeling living overseas, and we used to get octopus and then, cook them up, use them for salads or fry them up too. So good things here. Now, look what I got up for you. There's the crew right there. The website, folks, USWPA.org. And look what you can do. It'd be very simple if you want to donate and help the folks out here. You can click that button. You can tour around the website, learn a lot more about what the USWPA has going on, what Chip and the crew are doing. Because like we've talked about here today, this thing is just getting started, Chip. I want to thank you for making some time to get on the court with me today. And everything I can do, anything I can do to continue to help support USWPA, the initiatives. Folks, go to a Chicken and Pickle near you when you see one of these wheelchair events coming. Check the website out, how you can continue to support Chip in this initiative, because I think it's great. Not only here in our own country, we're already seeing it expand internationally. And Chip, you're helping to do that. So once again, thank you so much. I'm going to let you get out of here. If you want to plug maybe Velvet again on your way out or anything you'd like to talk about happening with USWPA, go for it. Make sure you have a fantastic day. We're getting everybody over the hump today, Chip. What do you got?
Well, thank you, Mickle. Thank you so very much for doing this. Anything we can do to grow wheelchair pickleball is what I'm all about. I would love to think that we would be in the Paralympics before long, and that is my goal. Next year, I'm trying to put together a world team competition with 6 to 10 countries. So I'm so excited to see where we can go with this, and with help like yours, maybe we'll get there. So thank you so very much for taking the time for me today. Good luck in the future.
Chip, that was awesome. And my absolute pleasure. I can't wait to see wheelchair pickleball in the Olympics. People, go to the USWPA website, check out what's upcoming. Go to Velvet Athletics and check out those paddles. I'm checking out. Stay safe and stay hydrated. I'll see all y'all right here next time for more